I apologize. Sorry, I had to record it for the sake of the article. So President Xi held a video summit with French President Macron and Merkel last night in Beijing. And among the many issues that they discussed, he also reinforced this idea that we need to have win-win cooperation on all sides. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, what you think is the prospect of China-EU cooperation in things like economic and trade relations, on climate change and other areas, and what mutually beneficial results will it bring to both sides? Pretty vague question.
It's a very vast question, of course.
It is a vast question.
I think my personal opinion is that European Union should sort out things for itself. I mean, it's in the interest of the citizens of the European Union that European member states individually and collectively through the EU foreign policy and to trade relations can develop an own position. An own position, I mean by own position, a position which is different than the position of the United States of America, which would be logical because after all, besides lots of things we share with the United States, there is a difference in interests and in position. The American reality is different to the European Union reality and the European member states reality. Our geographical, our location is different, our borders are different, our interests are different. And so I think it is important that European Union leaders seize every opportunity to strengthen good cooperation with China. To achieve this, I think it is also important that we agree to disagree on some issues. I mean, the view on individual human rights, on geopolitics, on the way economic interests can be defended, the way we see development of Africa. Well, you can name lots of very important items. I think it is important at a certain moment to agree that we, to a certain extent, disagree on some issues, but that nevertheless, making a kind of, let's say, assessing the pros and the cons, we should agree that there is an overwhelming amount of reasons why it is better to deepen our cooperation and to have an individual specific characteristic stance as European Union in an interaction with, in future connections, interactions, cooperations with China, than just to align ourselves on the American position. So agree to disagree, recognize the fact that we have lots of reasons to strengthen our cooperation, and based on that, trying to identify the domains in which we can make progress. Trade was identified some months ago. Let's see how the European Parliament handles this. Also there, I think we should be capable at a certain moment to make a distinction between the things on which we disagree and the interest for Europe to strengthen its relation with China. So I think stronger cooperation with China in the field of trade, of economics, of research, of R&D, of climate change issues, safety, security. These are domains in which we really have to go to deepen our cooperation. And so every initiative, like the one you point at, every initiative taken by Chinese authorities, European authorities, I think is positive. Yeah, and that will deliver. That will deliver in more trade, in more exchanges, in more effective results in tackling climate change, more effective results in trying to safeguard some essentials in terms of security and safety all over the globe. So yes,
Yeah,
that's more or less it. It's not a comprehensive answer to your very vast question,
no,
but that's my approach. Yeah.
It's a fantastic answer. He also spoke a lot about multilateralism and this concept of true multilateralism, which he pointed out in that speech, which apparently, according to him, is about maintaining the international system with the UN as the core and to keep the basic norms of international relations based on the UN Charter and strengthen cooperation on climate change, etc. What is your view of this true multilateralism that he refers to?
Well, I think it was key to development, global development and progress since the Second World War. It's, I think multilateral cooperation has suffered over the last, let's say, 3-5 years of, well, of course, due to the American positioning under Trump. It has suffered also for other reasons, but we should be conscious of the fact that stronger multilateral cooperation really has made a difference since the Second World War. And the fact that China is seeing its future within a policy of strengthening that multilateral cooperation is just a very positive development. And there again, the founding fathers of the multilateral cooperation, not only the UN one, but also in Europe and in other parts of the globe, should really seize that opportunity to work together to strengthen mutual understanding on the goals and the ways that the goals of multilateral cooperation, the ways it should be strengthened, it should continue to evolve, including in terms of very difficult questions like the imbalance in how currently the governance of the UN is designed and is functioning, but also in terms of supporting the takeoff of real multilateral cooperation in regions that really need it, like Africa, for instance. I think the free trade agreement in Africa is really a very important step forward. So yes, multilateral cooperation is a key for the future, a key to tackle challenges we're confronted with, climate change, pandemics, and other issues. And it is a very positive development that China, while it is re-entering history, so to say, taking up again a very important prominent role on the international scene, it very clearly sees that role within a strengthened multilateral framework. So that's positive. And on the other hand, I think we should recognize that the transition from Trump to Biden may, to a certain extent, an important difference, makes an important difference in trying to rebuild that multilateral cooperation. Although also there, once again, we have issues on which we differ. The non-interference with domestic affairs issue, for instance.
And the legacy of Trump is
side of the. Sorry?
The legacy of Trump in terms of US-China relations is still
also, but also between the European Union and the US. I mean, we have, I think it is in the interest of the European Union that we put on the table the issue, the problem of the universality of some sanctions and some decisions by US courts, for instance, and the role the dollar plays into economic sanctions. So we share a lot of values with the United States of America. We're very, I think we should be very grateful for the role they have played in Europe in helping us to start the economy, in the two world wars. We should stay very grateful for that, but still we have some differences. Yeah.
Another international project that seems to be gaining a lot of ground is, of course, the BRI or the OBOR. I know you've spoken about it at length in previous interviews. I wanted to ask you, so in this speech at this summit yesterday, Xi pointed out that what China wants is first and foremost to develop itself, its own economy. It doesn't wish to replace others. And of course, chief among that is this Belt and Road initiative that can create opportunities for common development, among other things. I know you've spoken about it in the past, but what is your current assessment of the Belt and Road initiative?
I think there are, well, as far as I'm concerned, I have two elements. The first one is, as such, in principle, all the efforts to strengthen the connections, to improve infrastructure, to through an improvement of infrastructure, deliver also real development, economic development, and social development is as such is positive. The other part is, of course, in terms of how it is implemented in different countries, in different dossiers, there should really be win-win situations. And also the countries where the BRI is deployed in infrastructure, this should be affordable for these countries and not put these countries in difficulties. But as such, I think it is a very interesting concept, and it is a very interesting way in investing in connections. Coming back to the positioning of Europe, it is very clear that for the future, we need more infrastructure connections with Central Asia, with Asia, with even the Far East. After all, Europe is a very tiny little part of the big Eurasian continent. And so the economic growth and the economic growth today and in the future also will to a very important extent be happening in Asia and in the Far East. And so we have a lot of interest for Europe to be even better connected with Asia. And so the BRI is part of that investment that is needed, of course. Yeah.
I know the G7 countries have made efforts to try and rival the Belt and Road with their own program. Do you think that's a wise decision?
Well, I think, as I mentioned before, every investment in improving infrastructure, be it the traditional infrastructures, transport infrastructure, but also the new infrastructure, is positive. And you will always have a kind of competition, rivalry. So the fact that the G7 wants to add it and wants to also invest in that kind of efforts is, as such, is positive. I wouldn't see it always as antagonistic and as dangerous of having this kind of rivalry or competition. Very important is that in the countries concerned, this is sustainable, this is affordable for the countries concerned, that it really creates win-win relations. But as such, these are positive developments. Yeah.
So my final question is, again, President Xi, said that he insists on building an overall stable and balanced relations between major powers. We know that, but he also hopes that the European Union will play a more active role in international affairs, which is in itself for the first time that he's really said that in quite those terms. And he wants the EU to try and develop its own strategic autonomy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think when President Xi speaks about strategic autonomy, maybe in terms of the content of what that own European Union policy would look like, we could differ. But as such, I completely agree. I mentioned it before in the different domains, in the different ways to defend our interests as citizens of the European Union and the European Union as a whole. We need indeed to have our own positioning, our own stance, which is not easy. Internally, because of the role that national diplomacies and the national agendas still play. Externally, because of this alliance with the US, which is strong and which has to remain strong. But still, having said that, we have own interests which differ from the US. They also differ from China. And indeed, it would be good if we could take up this role on the international scene in a even more dynamic and active way. In some domains, the European Union is already very active. I mean, in terms of free trade, we're a big player. In terms of development aid support to countries all over the globe, the EU is a very important donor and player, quote unquote. But it's right that we should strengthen that own positioning in international affairs. Once again, I think that when it comes to the content of that own European positioning, we will have differences in opinions with President Xi and with China. But there again, that's a fact of life, and let's overcome this by identifying also lots of domains in which stronger cooperation with China will deliver, should deliver, and will deliver lots of benefits for both parts of the world. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's all my questions. I wondered if you maybe had a final thought, something perhaps that you wish to convey to larger Chinese audience, or perhaps a thought that's been nibbling at you for a while and that you wanted to perhaps express?
Well, just this one. I think that we are living in a period of disintermediation and more horizontal relations. And I think that includes the necessity to develop a good understanding between citizens also. And so the people-to-people relations between Chinese and European nations, I think it would be good from both parts, from both sides, to sufficiently invest in these people-to-people relations. I think that people that know each other and that, let's say, try to understand each other and invest more time and energy in understanding each other, well, that kind of exchanges will be a solid base for sustainable peace and lasting peace, which is of course a good guarantee for social and economic development.
I have a lot of personal questions to ask you. So you're quite heavily involved in China at the moment, Chinese businesses trying to sort of create a bigger market for European brands, for example, exporting to the Chinese market and vice versa. Was that a conscious decision that you made once you retired from politics, or was it not retired from politics, but once you left high office, or was it?
Well, I wanted to do things in international politics. I wanted to be active in that field, OECD, international ID, and so on, Club de Madrid, Nizami Ganjavi. I wanted to do something in top sports. I've been in charge at UEFA of some dossiers.
Oh, wow.
And then I wanted to be involved in business because I have some ideas on this. And also because I think at the end, strengthening the economic cooperation is also a very good, let's say, impulse for sustainable and lasting peace. And the European continent is a good example where after all these wars, we now have this more than 75 years lasting peaceful situation on the European continent, battlegrounds, historically speaking. And this is due to the fact that we have integrated our economies. And I think that this really remarkable economic miracle that China achieved gives lots of opportunities for Chinese businesses and people, but also for European businesses and people. I think that this is a window of opportunity where I wanted to contribute. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, listen, thank you so much
thank you.
For your time. And I'll follow up with an email with the article, etc. And hopefully we get the opportunity
Excellent.
to meet again in the future.
Thank you very much.
Have a lovely
Bye-bye.
day. Thank you so much.
Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.